Hey everyone, welcome to live show number 179 of This Week in Hospitality Digital Marketing. Your eyes do not deceive you. That is the elusive Holly Zoba.
Barely, just barely.
Holly, yeah, barely. She's already telling me she's sick. Like, yeah, we're comparing sick notes. I'm sure everybody that's listening to her or not. Yeah, this seems to be a bad cold season or something that's rolled around.
Really long too. People have it for a long time.
I recognize that behind you, that poster. Yeah. Hey, since I do have you, and I was bragging about you just the other day, and I was complimenting you just now. How's the program, the influencer program? Tell us a little bit more about it. We got the chance.
It's just fantastic. It's such a great program. So, I get to work with salespeople who want to embrace technology, and it's a different group from traditional salespeople who want nothing to do with technology. Those salespeople honestly drive me a little bit crazy. These salespeople who sign up for my class get that, all right, it's probably not going away, time to embrace it, or even better, this new group of salespeople that are coming in are like, yeah, we know technology, we like it, how does it work for us? So it's a good class. The tricky part, as with everything, is the strategy. It's the cool tools, shiny, fun, but how do I incorporate it into the overall strategy? That's always the challenge, and that's also kind of the fun part, but I'm loving it, as I think my students are as well.
You're being very successful. First off, having the privilege to have actually learned it from you and to be able to do it, and then knowing its value application, then I know that there's things to come with HSMAI and what you're doing with them. But I think, and this is how the context that it came up the other day when I was talking, there is definitely, as all what we do matures, there's a segmentation of people that are facilitators and linear people that do progressive work. They go from step 1 to step 2 to step 3. And it has to follow that paradigm. But there's those that are strategists that need to, that can look at a project, flip the box and say, hey, Mr. Robert Cole, look, it's Holly, look. But anyway, there's these strategists, these people that can take the context of the tools, the technology, the things, and solve the problems. And that's turning into a very rare breed, because that's the biggest facilitation. I mean, it's hard, yeah, because it's one thing to know that LinkedIn does this and this and that and this. It's another thing of, well, what does that mean? What do I do with it? How do I find clients with this if this thing works, kind of thing. So what you're teaching is actually probably, in the way I look at what I understand of it, it helps people begin to put into context these things. Okay,
which is what's important. Yeah, you can't just, as we've known for 10 years, you can't just go out and play with the new tools. There's something, as you and I both far too well, there's all sorts of new tools every week. What'd you buy this week on AppSumo? Did you buy Shorby?
Oh, I stacked that thing.
I knew it. I didn't buy it. I didn't buy Shorby.
Well, the reason being for this is it allows you to, I got some rolled eyes from Ed and Stuart last week when I told them that. It's like, why don't you just keep changing the link that you're already providing? It's like, that's the problem. It's not about using it once. You can be cellular once. You can do one thing. It's the consistency. I'd much rather have good consistency than stellar singular performance. Cellular. Did I say it wrong?
I think it's not a word.
Cellular.
No. That is a word. It's a comment if you're working with something on a cellular level.
Yeah, cellular.
And it's stellar performance. So he's talking about micromanaging things very well. Creates a stellar.
So what were we right? Stellar? Just stellar? Just say stellar? Is that better?
Stellar, yes. Stellar. That's a Laurenism.
I like my made-up word.
That's good.
Now, Holly.
Yes,
Holly,
Robert.
though, I think since we are, this is a Help Lauren session, apparently. I didn't realize you had scheduled an intervention. That's why you're here. Okay, so you need to repeat 3 times. You can't just blindly run after and use new tools. And Lauren has to affirmatively repeat. Lauren,
you know what?
The first step of this 12-step process is acknowledging that you have a problem.
No problem.
This is what I have learned about Lauren. We want Lauren to stay just the way Lauren is, because Lauren goes out and he plays with all these tools, and then he tells us about them, and then it's up to us to weed out the crazy from the practical. But if I didn't have Lauren, I would know about half the tools that
I'm
I
the
do.
guinea pig.
That's true.
I don't
Add it.
mind being the guinea pig. Now, and also about the UTM-IO, which is actually really cool from an agency perspective because you can standardize your UTM string creations for coding. So it actually brings it faster so that when you do take on a new project, you don't have to manually. You just literally take the template, drop it in, put the strings in, and it creates your entire campaign structure.
So Holly,
That makes sense.
You see Lauren. I mean, we might as well go to. There's always a good Looney Tunes analogy. You see him kind of as the Wile E. Coyote of these tools. Is that the approach? He tries all the tools.
Acme, yes.
Acme. He tries all of the Acme tools and then tells you which one works. Now, he hasn't come up with one yet, but that's okay.
Oh, he absolutely has. You just have to.
Oh.
Oh my gosh.
A friend of mine gave me this because with the few times a Wile E. Coyote talked, it's like Wile E. Coyote super genius.
Yeah.
I got this because anytime I think I'm too smart for my own good, I remind myself that when you think you're super genius, you keep blowing yourself up. That's why my friend got this for me because it's like, yeah, Wile E. Coyote super genius. Just remember when you think you're too smart, that's when you blow yourself up.
I love it.
And in fairness to Lauren, he's not Wile E. Coyote. He's more like the mad scientist in the lab with the singed eyebrows and the goggles. At least he wears eye protection. But yeah,
I bought Promo Republic.
Yes.
Which I have to say, like at first I thought, oh, this is dumb. I'm loving it. It's just for one person operations. Everything.
Yes.
And so it does my social stuff for me. I can go in there. I've mapped out my next, month in fun social, sort of thought-provoking posts that it puts together for you. It took me about, 20 minutes to come up with schedule 10 of them. And then I can spend my time on the, serious articles and that sort of stuff. So I'm a big fan of Promo Republic.
And I always thought I was interacting.
There's a couple of good platforms like that.
I always thought I was interacting with Holly on social media. I had no idea it was just her bot.
It's just my bot.
But you have to be thoughtful about what you put together. But yeah, once it's scheduled, it's good stuff. Yeah.
And it really gives you 1,000 different ideas that you just go and pick and tailor, and it's really easy to modify. And so that's been a dream come true. I should have bought Shoreby, but I was on a financial diet that day, so sometimes I think stop the $49.
So you're asking about.
So everybody knows we're talking about an app called AppSumo, or a platform called AppSumo, and it offers new deals all the time. For $49, you get lifetime membership of stuff that if it takes off, you're going to end up paying $49 a month for. I'm really mad there are a couple of them that you bought that I missed that I now pay a monthly fee for. 4Screens. I love 4Screens.
But Holly, again, if you can't buy, it's like the stock market. You can't buy every stock. Okay.
Except for Lauren does.
You know what? I bought the App Pro thing that gives you 10% off. Plus, it gives you first dibs on stuff. There's a one right out right now called List. It gives you 5 free websites hosted for a year and all the templates and everything. 5, and it's free. You go there right now. You don't have to be a member. You go there. You live.
AppSumo.
Yeah. Go to AppSumo. Yeah. And it's called List Fast or something. It's the latest offer that they have, but it gives you 5 websites and it gives you 100 and something templates to work from, and they'll host them free for you for a year. So it's like,
what
okay.
happens after that year?
It's $11 a month.
Oh.
Okay. So. Yeah, so it's like if you need to crank out a couple of, because it's always good to have landing pages, and sometimes you don't want them within a main website. So if you can create subsites, you can just use them for stuff. But anyway, yeah, it's absolutely was fun, absolutely. And Tim was like, Holly, we have her for a brief period because she's not feeling well. It's like the rare sighting of the unicorn, white whale, what Malibu or caribou,
Okay.
Caribou.
Well, the rare unicorny thing, the whale. What is that? It's not white whale. It's a narwhal. The really rare, the ones with the
narwhal.
Narwhal.
I'm saying everything wrong today. I'm saying everything wrong.
You're lovely, Lauren.
You do every week. I'm just not here to point it out for you.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, I miss you.
Stellular was our word before you got here.
You sure that's not a word? I still.
Lauren's word of the day. That's right.
It's not a word.
It's a new word.
What word were you saying?
You said something with stellular.
Stellular.
Cellular?
Stellular.
Stellular.
Yeah,
In
I
the
like
context,
that.
Stellar
the
and
context,
cellular.
most people I think would use the word stellar, but Lauren wanted to make it a little
Extra.
bit more impact.
Extra, a little
Well,
extra.
that would be if there were actually a mobile phone company that weren't any good whatsoever. We would say that its coverage was cellular.
Exactly.
See,
It's
I'm
a
ahead of my.
portmanteau of cellular and stellar.
That's right.
Now we just need to find a mobile phone company that's worth a damn.
Yeah, that's right. And that'd be their slogan: a mobile company that's worth a damn.
And they tried that.
Exactly
The singular guys tried it, and they should have called themselves Stellular. I mean, that was
And
the whole
instead, they
thing.
called themselves AT&T.
Exactly.
So, Holly, so you got Robert's well curated list, and since it is a rare and
Yeah, thanks
wonderful
so
pleasure to have
much.
you,
For that giant list that, I'm on the west-ish coast, so I've been pouring over it for the last hour. So I think we should save the revenue management article for an hour from now when Jay joins us, since he was in it.
Jay's joining us.
Jay Hubbs
Hubbs?
is joining
Oh,
us.
If I had known, I would have told people about that. Oh my goodness. Who knew?
Jay and I are, emceeing the digital marketing conference, and so we're coming on here to.
Are you
talk
really?
about it. Yes, you didn't know that?
I didn't know that. No,
Jeez.
I'm moderating a panel. but
I know.
Right. And I'm speaking, and so yeah.
Yeah,
And
Very
Lauren's
cool.
going to be running the live show outside, right?
Very cool.
and so
and I
Jay
need
and
video
I.
snippets from all of you guys because I need to put a new round of ads next week, and I want some video snip testimonials. So I need video snippets.
Okay.
But so Jay and I literally have been, talking once a week, every week. So my new best friend,
Sure.
he's delighted.
It's
So we
fun to talk to Jay.
I asked him to be my co-host because I wanted a straight man. I thought, finally, I get the opportunity to be the funny one. And then Jay, very bright guy. So we've had this competition going on about who's funnier, which in my mind was always me. Crap.
I
have you
agree with you.
tried?
I agree with you. In any group, I am definitely always the funniest.
I thought I was the funniest. Wait a second.
I don't know about any of the rest of you, but I crack me right the hell up.
Exactly.
He's really funny. Oh, it's
Yeah, he
very
is.
annoying.
He's got a very
Smart
sharp wit. He is
and
very
funny.
sharp wit.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to work extra hard.
But
But anyways,
he's
he's joining us in a little bit.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Great.
Well, what do you want to discuss, Holly?
Yeah, exactly.
So I was a little bit sad about the recap of the digital trends for 2018. I don't really think that the book direct topic is dead.
Oh.
Oh, no, definitely not.
Well, you see, sometimes I throw in little things that might be relatively controversial, just to mix things up.
I read that and thought, no, we can't be done with this conversation. It needs to go on.
So let's see. That was now.
Which one is that? That Martin Solar, or is that
Oh, I don't know. I have them all open on my other screen here.
I read
Because
most of
actually
these, but
there
I can't
were,
remember
there
which
were a
one
couple
was which.
the couple that mentioned that. So
Well,
Is
so
it
one of
the-
my favorite ones we can talk about was Chip Conley's surf report. He's starting an Elder University in where?
Yeah,
in Baja.
Marin County or Baja, rather.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, that's his new thing. So Chip, actually, I saw him speak at the Milestone Conference. Tim, were you there? I can't remember if you were there.
I did not make it this year. I was double booked, so no.
Man in demand.
Exactly. But yeah, he spoke. I talked to him a little bit afterward. It's a really interesting concept. So,
What do they do there?
it's kind of a mentoring thing, like learning from elders, right? So, and it's designed for people kind of going to like a not necessarily midlife crisis. That would be a very crass way to put it, but kind of you hit your 40s and things kind of
Crass but
change a little,
accurate.
right?
Yeah.
Your dreams are shattered. You realize you can't be an astronaut or a fighter pilot
A
or
ballerina, yeah.
a ballerina, yeah.
So
Whatever. And this is basically to help people kind of focus their lives, be good with what they're doing, and then kind of help them find new directions.
I did not realize that's what it was. That's
so
pretty
it's
cool.
kind of a self-help retreat type.
But with
So
mentors.
it's like emotional wellness, where you can learn from, and he kind of goes back to this, because it's very Zen, was very into like Burning Man at the beginning and all that sort of stuff, right? So he's all very into like the emotional wellness of people, and he's onto something. And there are some other folks who are doing this sort of thing, which is interesting. And
well, just from a vacation that people want to take, it's a good
idea.
Well,
it's more of a retreat. Yeah. So it isn't like you pack up the family and kids and go do this. This is more like, you go.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a vacation choice. Like I could go to Paris for a week, or I could go and do this, and it might be an experience that I want. I think it's pretty smart.
Right. Well, and in his surf report, and I'll post the link in a second here. In his surf report, he also mentioned a variety of other different types of vacations. So like medical tourism, right? And I don't know if you guys know Caitlin. Caitlin Shaughnessy. She did. What was the startup? It was doing some travel agent stuff. But she's out of LA. Actually, she's just moved to Austin. But she has a new startup called Doc Tours, which I thought was a very
that's clever.
A very clever name, right?
I don't get it.
It's for medical tourism.
Doctors.
I get it, but when you go and visit doctors?
Oh yeah, medical tourism is a huge
deal.
area.
No, I don't get it. You go to visit hospitals?
You need knee surgery, or you need a certain kind of treatment, which is
or
unaffordable.
You want cosmetic surgery.
Cosmetic surgery. It could be any number. Normally, it's not like heart transplants and
right
things like that, right?
So you go someplace where it's much less expensive.
And you get a vacation as well.
And you get a vacation. You go to like a resort, so it's not like a typical hospital stay,
Yeah. So you can recover some. Yeah.
People come to my house. I'm in Arizona. I have somebody right near here now at my house who had knee surgery, who came here to Arizona from Ohio to have knee replacement surgery, and she's staying at my house. So
okay, so that's half of it. So that's half of it. Probably didn't save a lot of money in Arizona versus Ohio. But
if you went to Costa Rica, for instance.
Yeah. I mean,
she's recovering in 70-degree weather versus.
Oh, sure.
Exactly.
It's the same concept, right? Just another piece of it typically is, as Robert's saying, is it saves you a lot of money, because if you get it done in, South Africa, the cost of the medical procedure is much lower than it would be in Ohio.
Doc tours. Now I get it.
Well, and there are other certainly other ones. And I remember, way back, 10 years ago. Yeah, actually 10 years ago, talking to a woman about this who was really interested in starting this sort of thing up. She was Thai. Yeah, and so she was really trying to figure out how you could start doing this, because it's a big thing. It's billions of dollars.
Well, and I'll tell you what I think is genuinely brilliant about this. So, shameless self-promotion. I'm doing a talk at HSMAI DC chapter next week, where we're talking about some trends for 2019 and things people should be aware. And what's interesting, and there's data from all over, many, many different sources that say many different things. But generally speaking, what we're seeing is that boomers still spend more on travel, anticipate spending more on travel than any other segment. There are fewer of them than there used to be, but they spend more per trip than any other demographic segment, right? Mm-hmm. And so this is really smart to have an idea of how do we appeal to people who might be getting a little older and things like that. So something like medical tourism makes sense. Something like what Chip is saying makes sense, because you can make it very experiential, you can make it very rich, and you can probably charge a lot more for it.
Quite a lot, yeah.
So it's a really, really, intelligent revenue strategy play to say, how do we maximize the yield of different groups as opposed to just, different types of trips or different customers, right? We're saying this group has more money, so what are the kinds of trips they would be willing to spend money on? I think that's really, really smart. And what Chip is doing there is really smart.
And Chip is always on the forefront.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Well, and he did. He went through kind of some of the beginnings of joie de vivre and some of the things. So the article's very good. It's in Hotels Magazine, which when you see the link, does require a free
registration.
Oh,
Right.
free registration.
Right.
Yeah. So you've got to give them a little info to get their stuff, but they don't seem to spam with a lot of different things. Actually, one thing I noticed, which was a little odd, there are a lot of publications, not necessarily like the Focus Wires and the Skiffs, but some of these other magazines do not have secure sites. They are still HTTP.
Right.
Yes.
Which is going to hurt them in search before
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, I would
Right.
think for something like that, you would want it out pretty quick.
I found out that the tough part of it is that the criteria now for securing is difficult with images that you don't have in a secure. You can actually make your own security by adding an image that isn't secure.
Correct.
Oh yeah.
So it'll throw your site off. It'll take you off of your HTTPS security. Because you bring in an image that is coming from someplace else, and it can't be self-loaded. You're just referring to it, and you bring the image in. It can screw your HTTPS off. So that's why
I did not know that.
You need
I
control.
did that myself already a few times. In addition to the fact that all of the posts are now amped, I plugged in the new AMP from Google, and so the embed player embeds don't work on AMP posts. So
don't do AMP.
Don't do AMP. What?
Don't do AMP.
What?
Don't do AMP. Don't do AMP. Don't do AMP. Don't do AMP. Sorry.
Because why?
Oh my God! Why would you give all your content to Google? Why? Make your site fast and don't do AMP.
Because
Make
they
your
want
site
it
fast
and they'll
on
reward
mobile
you.
and don't do AMP.
They're going to reward you.
Holly just put it so succinctly.
Right.
Because they want it. Because
they
want it and they will reward you.
Why don't we just give all our inventory to Expedia and Booking.com? They'll reward us.
That's right.
I mean, realistically, why don't we just, why even have a website? Why not just put everything on Facebook? Wait a second. Why don't we just,
Because they want it and they'll reward you. That's an excellent idea, Tim.
I mean,
so AMP bad is what you're saying.
I'm saying focus on how do you make it correct.
It takes me much longer before I get people when they want to strangle me.
No, I don't want to strangle you. I want to strangle Google. I don't want to strangle you at all. I want to strangle Google.
So, sorry, go ahead.
So why do we always dance to the tune some other piper plays? Google has said we care about site speed, we care about mobile friendliness. Hey, here's an easy way for you to do this. Do AMP. No. Make it mobile friendly and make it fast on mobile. You can do that lots of ways. AMP is a way, but it's the way that favors Google and nobody else. Do it the way that doesn't favor Google and nobody else, and you're set up for the long term. So that if, 3 years from now, Google gets broken up by antitrust or God only knows what, you don't suddenly have to rejigger everything because suddenly there's no more Google. I hate the short-term solution. Because it invariably comes back to bite us in the end. A la Expedia, a la Booking, a la, insert whatever other way we managed to smack ourselves in the head with a hammer over the last 20 years has ever been. Do what Google's intent is. Make it fast, make it mobile friendly, make it fast on mobile. But don't necessarily assume that AMP is the only way to check that box.
I don't think Tim really likes this topic at all. I don't think he's impassioned at all.
How many times?
It was a short-term plugin I put in and say, okay, Google has now an official AMP, so I plugged it in. And then I go in and it's like, what the hell happened to my video players and all my posts? Then I go dig into it and it's like, 178 video players don't play now because all my posts are now turned on with AMP. So now I have to go back in and turn off AMP so that I can actually have my video insertions play because it was a short-term play, I'll just put it in there and that way they get indexed easier with Google and so forth. But to Tim's point, as soon as I did that, I created this massive issue of like, oh crap, it really made a mess. So now I got to unplug it.
And what you did was good for Google, but it wasn't necessarily good for you.
Right. I already had a good site speed for him. Hey, Mr. Stewart.
Hey guys.
Look who's on the show. Look who's on the show. Look.
Nerdy Stuart is here.
What? Nerdy. Wow.
Oh, Stuart, come on.
Is this where I call you a brat again?
Yes.
Is this what happens? Okay.
When I tuned into the show last week or the week before, you were talking about how you started some movie at like 34 seconds before the new year. I thought, oh my gosh, he's such a nerd. I've missed him.
I am. Yeah, I am a nerd. A proud badge-wearing nerd.
That's right. That's right.
And good
Let's
at
be
math.
fair. I don't know who on this show is not a nerd. There may just simply be a spectrum of nerdiness.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
We're
What we're
covering
nerdy
the
about.
gamut.
I don't think any of us were like among the cool,
cool
kids,
kids.
in high school
Oh,
necessarily.
can I be the nerd curmudgeon?
That's
Can I
funny.
be the curmudgeon?
Right.
Yes, you can.
Oh my gosh.
Relative degrees of
Speaking of
cool,
which.
but you know.
That I know you deal with the rut-row at the end, but that was hilarious.
No. We are not.
All right.
Do not. Do,
I was
do
just
not
thinking the
do a
curmudgeon.
Lauren on us. Yeah. So.
So anyway, we were just
Yeah, let's
having a
Well,
thing
wait,
since you
I wanna
left,
hear what
Ollie,
Stuart-
because
I
now,
wanna hear
now
what
we're very
Stuart-
structured. We have to follow rules.
Tim
So,
was
Stuart, we were
singing the praises of
Stuart,
AMP.
wait. Yeah, Stuart. So what do you
ha.
think about AMP?
About AMP, accelerated mobile pages?
Yes.
Meh.
Thank you, Stuart.
Now, for in fairness,
one of these.
Tim was not quite meh in terms of his
Yeah.
response.
No. Tim wasn't.
Here's the thing, right? I think Google, a lot of other, and Facebook had their alternative. I think a lot of people were trying to force the industry or the world in a direction with that because marketers did a really bad job of creating a good mobile experience, right? So a lot of websites, even still today in 2019, there's a lot of hotel websites that are not mobile friendly, or in fact, they should be mobile specific. They should be designed from the ground up to work with mobile first. But so I think the industry tried to react to that, and put a focus on stripping out all the crap, taking out a lot of the JavaScript. It's very simple. If you look at a lot of AMP pages, it looks like a website from back in the 90s.
Right.
It's just white background, black text, blue links. And, I think they were forcing people. But, the adoption was probably slower than they had hoped for. They try to do what Google does, which is incentivize good behavior by giving some kind of,
Rewards.
reward in the terms of ranking, right? But, the keywords that I care about for my clients, it hasn't really had an impact, because they're not competing for news-related keywords, which is really where you saw AMP get a big boost. It was timely news-related stuff, right? So do I think every hotel should have an AMP version of its site? No, but have a really kick-ass, really fast, really slick mobile site, and you're going to be just fine.
Oh, Stuart, I owe you much booze
Honestly.
when I see you in New York in a couple of weeks.
Hey, so everybody's going to be there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to be there. This will actually be the first time I've met Tim face to face. We've never actually met in person.
We've actually never met in person. That's true. We're like two ships passing on a video screen.
Oh, how funny.
Yeah. Don't worry, I owe you a drink because you just said what I said.
Yeah,
The slightly calmer, more erudite version where I was
And
like,
then-
"Don't do AMP."
And the
With the
after
accent. Yeah. That's funny. Yeah.
Don't dance.
If your decision is should I invest in AMP or should I put more emphasis on building a good mobile experience in my existing website, do that. Do the latter. Yeah.
Right.
It's the Twinsy show.
I learned
It's the
something.
Twinsy show. The Tim and Stuart sound alike.
Well, and I want to take a step back from this for a second. First of all, Stuart, God bless you. God bless you, sir. I'm so happy right now. But I also want to take a step back from this. Anytime anyone who is any kind of intermediary or any kind of meta-mediary or whatever we want to call these folks is saying, you should do this, we really should be asking, whose benefit is this for?
Yes.
Right? Google certainly is looking out for the customer, but they are looking out primarily for their customer. Let's be really clear about this. And many intermediaries, when they're talking about these things, they are looking out for their customer, not your customer, their customer. Now you say, well, those could be the same person. And the answer is, well, they could be at first until the customer realizes I get the better experience over there at the intermediary. And then it's not your customer. You get commoditized. So you should look behind the intent of it, not just from a conspiracy theory or tinfoil hat thing, but from the standpoint of what is the experience they're trying to provide, a la better mobile experience, faster mobile experience, etc., and say, is there any other way to do that? besides just dancing to the tune that they're playing.
Right.
Yeah,
Now,
I agree.
there may be in one case where AMP page, and I completely agree, you should do it all on your own. If you're trying to hit a combination, perhaps if you have a certain aspect of your site where it may be blog oriented or more news oriented or
Sure.
tied to some sort of events or something that needs a little bit of boost and to compete, yeah, that's fine. And there's no rule that says it has to be all or nothing. I mean, you can do it in some targeted senses. So in some cases, maybe blog posts or something like that. Maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe.
yeah. And there's some really good plugins,
Again,
especially
depending
if you're using a good.
depending on the topics.
Yeah, and if you're using a good CMS, there are some really good plugins that make it pretty easy and streamlined and automated almost to, with say blog posts, something like that. So yeah, I mean, if it's a couple of installing a plugin that's not going to screw up your site in a couple of clicks, there's no harm in doing that. But I don't.
There's
think
no harm in the short term.
Sure. I just don't think it should be where your focus is at this point. There's 1,000 things that are more important that you should be focused on.
Like what?
Well,
like your actual mobile experience, like trying to reduce your reliance on OTAs by having a better rate strategy, by having a more frictionless booking experience, by having the booking experience actually seamlessly integrated in your website versus popping out into a new window, especially on mobile. Anyone that's watching this that's using Synexus or TravelClick right now, chances are when someone's on a mobile device and they click book now, it opens a new tab. Now go on a mobile phone and try that experience. It is terrible. Most people, consumers, don't want to jump between tabs on a mobile device. It's easier on desktop, and that's what you're looking at it. But look at that on mobile. It's terrible. So get your website booking experience lined up properly. You are going to get a lot more mobile bookings that way than you would by having an AMP page of a blog post that no one's going to read anyway.
Why would you put a detour sign in your funnel?
And look at things like, use things like Google's mobile speed test and see what your speed looks like, and go, and talk to your agency or talk to your development shop or talk to whomever is responsible for your site about how do you make that number faster, And
it even gives you some hints. Right?
It gives you a lot of hints. Yeah. If you want to get really sexy, use Lighthouse by Google. And again, it will give you lots and lots of developer hints and lots of developer tips in terms of things you can do to improve your speed, especially your mobile speed. And it just creates a better experience
and
overall.
The way we got on this topic was that some of these, and we might as well call them out, Hotels Magazine, and there are a couple, your publications, they don't have secure sites, right? They're still HTTP. And now that they've made the changes in Chrome and things like that, where you go and it says not secure in red with a little diamond.
Think about that. If you're a hotel and someone stood outside your front lobby with a big red sign that said, "This hotel is not secure," do you think people would walk in, and yet people accept it on their website? I don't understand.
Well, wait, it already says Marriott outside.
Sim is enough.
Sorry. It was there.
Well, or he could have said Hilton or Hyatt.
I could have,
Wyndham or any of the others too.
Exactly.
Anyone that collects data.
The largest.
Come on, who's in the news this week is all I'm saying.
Exactly.
They've done a great job though of saying Starwood. Like they have Starwood under that.
All of a sudden,
that was intentional. There was a PR meeting when they were like, okay, messaging is stolen. If you've seen, I read an article yesterday that said that the liability could be close to $9 billion if they really went after them to the full extent of what GDPR can do. It could be $9 billion.
I wouldn't be surprised.
There you go.
So,
it'll never be that amount, but if it's
going to want to,
it will never be that amount because they'll negotiate it. But boy, if it's a tenth that's still $1 billion, man. That's a lot of damn money. That's what you call material to earnings on the earnings call. That's never a fun conversation.
Do you look at that as an additional investment in Starwood? Because it was really. It wouldn't have been a problem had you not bought Starwood.
But Starwood.
Exactly.
Right.
But
Right.
actually,
Premium tax
before
on the purchase.
before we move on, just on this topic of all these, doing things with third parties, be careful with the plugins, right? Because
Yeah.
Oh,
again,
yeah,
yes,
sure.
there may be good ones, but a great way to make your site not secure and things like that are all these plugins, which God knows where they're pulling their information from, if they're doing it right, but
Right.
it reflects on your site because it is an integral architectural portion of it all of a sudden, right?
Right,
So
and it
all of a
slows
sudden,
down the
yeah.
site too,
Yeah.
because
Absolutely.
everything you add to that
Additional
site is
calls,
something that
yeah.
has to load. It could be another back and forth between the user client and your web servers. So I definitely think be mindful. Is the benefit of installing the new Whiz-Bang plugin? I'm looking at you specifically, Lauren. The benefit of installing the new Gizmo. At what is the cost? There's always a cost to it. So
social links, things like that.
I'm literally following the history of how I used to pack. When I packed before, when I traveled, I brought everything, including a printer. So I'm lugging technology.
Steamer trunk, the steamer trunk approach.
You took a printer?
I took a mobile printer with me. This was back a ways, but yeah, just because you never know when you need one. Okay?
I take my coffee maker with me to Vegas.
See,
Oh,
there.
Lord.
See, now,
Are you traveling on a plane?
If I can get by with a backpack, okay, I'm good. And the same goes with my website. To your point, I would plug everything into my website, and then I wonder, like, geez, why is it a 15-minute load time? It's just,
I take a laptop, a Nintendo Switch, and a recharger, and that's it. That's the technology, Yeah, of course.
So now
That's
I'm
what I'm
pulling everything off of my site, and I'm shutting things off that I thought I was going to use that I'm not using, because you're right. It is. It just adds clutter to it, and when my site crashes and I have 404s and I don't know what's going on, it's usually a plugin. Something changed, so now I'm stripping all this stuff out that I'm not using or I thought I was going to use, and until I use it. So yeah, these kind of plugins are, they create security issues. They create
and especially the social sharing ones can be really, really ugly, where having a little thing to have your little Twitter link to tweet it is not that complicated. The code's pretty basic, but these guys are out there pulling a whole pile of God knows whatever information,
including a ton of libraries, and they can be conflicting libraries to what the other plugins are using.
You got conflicting libraries, you got non-compressed images, you've got all sorts of crap out there, which and we were talking about the Google score. I mean, and Google has some good some good A/B testing and things like that, but try running through, pull out some of these plugins and then run your site through it, and all of a sudden you go, oh gee, I changed from a D to a C plus or something like that on the score. So
Tim, do you use your own site?
Why?
Do your own site?
I have
own website.
No, I have a developer and I have a designer, and it's hosted on a professional host. It is a WordPress site, but it's
so is a third of the web,
And Lauren, you have WordPress site. Robert has WordPress. I do have WordPress.
But I do mine completely myself, which sometimes shows.
I do too. So does Lauren.
Which is really ugly.
Yeah, I used to do mine. I got to the point where the coding of the theme and things like that got to be more code heavy than I wanted to be doing on a day-to-day basis. So I have a developer who handles all that now.
Some of these new themes, I started off on Thesis. I then went to Genesis. Just in terms of a framework. And let me tell you, Avada is pretty freaking amazing. It's good. That platform, you can do almost anything. So that's my new site. I've been playing around with that.
How long ago was it you played with Genesis? How long ago was that?
Oh, my existing site is still on Genesis.
Okay, yeah. So WordPress bought Genesis, or the company that created Genesis, and they made a lot of cool features. We built our own custom core. We call it Muscovy, after those really ugly ducks. I don't know. Developers get to pick the name of the products. We're nerds. But our core is kind of like, the framework is like a Genesis. It's called Muscovy. So we kind of build that so we can control the infrastructure. But we've really started playing around more with Genesis with the recent updates. And a new site that we're building now for Fuel is actually going to be built on Genesis as an experiment, and we may end up doing that a little more as well.
Genesis, I really like. It had a lot. Certainly the ability to just add little things in and click them, and it's great. It has a lot of very, very modular Very
Yeah, that's what
modular
we like
features.
about it. And what we tend to do is find a framework like that and then build custom plugins for it. So we're in control of the environment. We'll use a few third-party things here and there for, certain things, but we're really specific. We vet them incredibly for a long time, and then we're very selective about which ones we actually will deploy to live sites.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's I'm a big Genesis fan. For a while before they got sold, there was a real lag sort of thing, and so then I actually wound up kind of doing the research a year ago and bought the Avada theme. It was not
it's
not
it's
super
good.
expensive or anything.
Yeah,
But
I've got a couple
again,
of personal sites on Avada.
with Gutenberg coming into WordPress, right? I kind of stopped because I didn't know, like, is Avada going to keep up? What's going to happen with Genesis? And so I froze up for a year, and then now that Avada is playing. I don't know if I want to say playing nice with Gutenberg, but they've got their Fusion Builder isolated, and it's fine, right, on the new platform now that it's live. So I'm going down the Avada path. So
I don't think Avada plays nicely with Gutenberg.
Gutenberg, perhaps not, but Gutenberg.
I think that's Steve Gutenberg.
Well,
yeah.
Oh no, the one
Gutenberg.
thing is you
Academy
cannot.
6.
You
Because
cannot.
I stopped it.
Site. Oh, well,
I
I'm
stopped it a
redoing my
couple
site now.
months ago.
Yeah. But I'm doing it now, and they still don't have it where you can build something in Gutenberg and then use Fusion Builder. You kind of have to pick what you're using to do it. So because I'm redoing my site, and that's why I made the decision. I put it off for almost a year. Was now I'm going to pull in all the content into Avada, and it's fine, and just use Fusion Builder and not use Gutenberg, right?
So have you guys played around much with Gutenberg at all?
I did initially, but then I stopped.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I don't think it's mature enough now. I think, it's good that WordPress have done what they've done and kind of go from the ground up and rebuild an architecture. And, it's the right thing to do because 10 years ago, it was a blogging platform that has just grown organically into a very good CMS.
Right.
Yeah. And so I'm sure there were some architectural limitations that they had inherited from where they came from. So, anyone that's developed software knows that at some point in the lifetime, you have to just reboot and start from scratch and learn from the mistakes you've made and eliminate those roadblocks. But it takes time to catch up when you do that. It takes time to get the product to a maturity level that the old one was. So, we're staying away for we played around with Gutenberg, but I don't think we're going to be deploying it for clients for a good 9 to 12 months, at least, until it matures as a product. It's very different, and what I've learned in this industry is people that are managing the marketing don't like change, believe it or not.
Well,
I guess it's a human trait.
Because it impacts so many other things.
Well, but there's another thing I would point to there, and I used to tell you needed to rebuild your site every 2 to 3 years, right? And I still think that's somewhat true under the hood to make sure you're up with security and all of that other kind of thing. The flip side is, if we look at every website on the web, I shouldn't say every, as we look at websites on the web generally, right? Web design has matured a lot. We're not seeing as much.
And it's normalized as well,
it's
right?
Normalized, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. There's more of a standard look that we see. Obviously, imagery matters and things like that, and that makes a big difference from a branding perspective. But, my site is actually the oldest design I've ever had on a website in my entire career. And the reality is, because most of my clients don't come to my site that often, right?
Right.
Most of my hotel customers, their customers only come to the site so many times per year. So it is a thing where we don't need to change quite as frequently as we used to. You obviously want to make it modern. You want to make it all those things. But also, it's more important that we focus on the under the hood. We focus on, schema. We focus on speed. We focus on mobile friendly. We focus on responsiveness, et cetera. And the changes become more tweaks than top to bottom,
And that's how we've approached it for a while is because it used to be it was a big ordeal, like a website redesign project was a massive undertaking, and then you were done, and then you moved on to the next project. But now I think website it's more of an evolution and an iterative process of improvements, and the platforms that they're built on now allow for that flexibility, right? So here's phase one of the website, but what are the things, the enhancements we want to make over the next 6-12 months? So it's continuing to evolve and change and improve, so you don't need that every 2-year refresh like you used to, because it's always fresh because you're adding new things.
You're refreshing monthly, probably.
Yeah, at least. Yeah.
It's a never-ending story. Your site's always a never-ending story.
What a great movie!
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I want a dragon like that.
Yeah. Falcor, was that his name?
Yeah, Falcor. Yep, Falcor.
Yeah. Well, no, I figured my website was now 6 or going on 7 years old. I think I did it in 2012. So, yeah,
It's time.
It was time.
You have a nice site, though, Robert.
Yeah. So I think in 2012, being a responsive site like that was pretty forward looking. Not quite as mobile friendly as maybe it could have been, but it's okay. It's not. Yeah.
So
thank you again, Genesis Hooks.
Yeah, but again, to
be able to do a lot of stuff.
To Lauren's point, though, your site, the mobile friendliness of your site isn't as important as a hotel site, because if you look at your Google Analytics, I'm sure it's like mine, 85% of people that come to the fuel site are still on desktop because it's people at work. What is their function when they're looking at our site? Hotel site, I don't think we've got a single hotel site now where less than 50% of the traffic is on mobile, so it's a little different prioritization.
Yeah.
Okay, can we go to the article about luxury travelers want more than ever before borrowing tactics from Netflix and Amazon?
Yes.
I clearly do not stay at those hotels. What?
Wow.
Where you have a concierge who knows everything that you like, and I mean,
I have a different take on that.
That's old school.
I was going to say that's not new at all. If you're not doing that at a luxury property and haven't been doing that at a luxury property for I don't know, a really, really, really long time, you're not a luxury property.
Well, they're talking about it with the technology slant at this point, not the
but
technology. It's just a tool. It's
a tool. I have told this story for more than a decade. My favorite story was, a guest checked into the Four Seasons in Santa Monica, California, and they dragged the desk. Robert knows this story really well. He's probably heard me tell this story a dozen times over the years. But, the guest was working in the hotel room during the day. They dragged the desk over by the window because they wanted to look out at the pier, right, and everything. So they're sitting there working all day, etc. They go to their meetings. They come back. They stay overnight. They get up the next morning. They get on a plane. They fly to Miami. They walk into the front desk and they say, "Hi, I'm so-and-so. I have a reservation for this evening." They say, "Of course. Welcome, Mr. Cole. Thanks so much for being with us tonight. We've gone ahead and we've moved the desk by the window for you. But if you would like it moved back to its original position, just let us know." Right?
Yeah.
And the people who missed the point of that story early on would always say, "Boy, they've really got a great CRM." And my point was, no, they have really well-trained housekeepers. The CRM certainly enabled the data to show up at the front desk of the next property the next day, but the CRM is not what made that work. Attention to what the guest did and what the guest cared about was what made that work.
Right.
And you could do that with, paper airplanes, for God's sakes, if you could figure out how to get it across the country fast enough. It's
pneumatic
tubes. Right, pneumatic tubes, right. The internet is a series of tubes. Yeah.
My point, though, is I obviously do not stay at luxury properties. And there is such a split between the hotels where I stay, or, sort of middle of the road. Technology at this point, I think, is more of a hindrance to middle of the road and below. I think from a customer service standpoint, because they have technology that often gets in the way of the guest experience as opposed to enhancing it. I stayed at the MGM in DC, the casino place outside of DC.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
That there's a problem. they have all of the latest and greatest cool technology,
Yeah.
and no one knows how to use it.
But
And
it's not
so,
connected to the guest experience, and it's not.
whatsoever.
Yeah.
They
And
went
I
they
think that's a
shiny
problem.
object syndrome.
Yeah.
But that's
Right.
not the technology's fault. Like they said,
Right.
it's a tool that has not
Right.
been properly implemented or
Correct.
absorbed into the process.
But I see that at that level of hotel all the time.
Yeah. But
They
that's
have the
right.
tech-
going to be
they've
worse
embraced
there.
it.
Right, but someone at corporate level made the purchase decision and then threw it down to all the people that are actually having to execute without
Put the
buying.
iPads in there, yeah. We'll
And
put
without
them
the
everywhere.
appropriate training and without the
Right.
appropriate incentives to those people, et cetera. I
Right.
mean, if you're talking a place with high turnover, then you got to really double down on how you train and
Yeah.
how you focus on
Yeah.
that, right?
It
I mean,
is
that's
maddening.
a human problem that technology simply
but
makes.
from a-
Absolutely.
It makes the
Yeah.
human problem more evident and happen more rapidly and more readily, but it's still a
Yeah.
human problem.
But I
And
would
that-
also argue that from a hospitality perspective, that there shouldn't be really any difference between a luxury property and economy property. Right now, there may be different
Right.
services involved.
Right.
There may be different furnishes in terms of FF&E and things like that.
There may be
But from
fewer
true-
touch points.
There may be fewer touch points.
Fewer touch
but
points.
But in many cases, in one of these smaller roadside property, like Lauren's example, wherever it is out on I-10
Mhm.
in whatever for the residence inn or something, but
Mobile, Alabama.
Mobile, Alabama, you wind up actually maybe meeting the general manager.
Mhm.
Who knows, right?
Yeah.
In
Oh,
a
yeah, yeah,
luxury
yeah,
hotel, hell no, there's no chance unless they're the really good ones, right? Where the general
Right,
manager insists
Well,
on being
think-
out and
This is also a
Out
metaphor
present
for how we
interaction
talk about our
with
websites. Put the two together. Going after the shiny object, the latest, greatest, the newest toy, but not taking care of core fundamental things, it has the same effect. What you're talking about, the use of technology. I mean, I'll give the same case when I was out in Las Vegas. You go to their custom TV, which is controllable from the custom dash beside the bed, and there's 15 channels of custom information that are blank because they don't even put their custom information on their custom channels, and because somebody fell down and were given this technology and they weren't taking care of core things. But then you go in reverse and you go to a place that is all about being attentive to people and to Tim's example of moving the table and so forth. It has nothing to do with the technology. At that point, it's the core of hospitality, saying, look, we're paying attention to our guests, and what can we do to provide a better guest experience? And sometimes technology answers that question. Sometimes there's no necessity for it. It is a blend. But yeah, to your point, Holly, is they do try to throw technology to solve a problem, but there's a void of ownership at the property of its facilitation.
Well, and I'm gonna post something real quick. I wrote this article a year ago for Hotel Executive, and I've written various versions of it over the years. It's the only place I took issue with something Stuart said before, not because he was wrong and not because his intent was wrong, but because there's a phrase that gets used that I think points people in the wrong direction sometimes. This article was called "It's Not Mobile First, It's Guest First."
Mm-hmm.
And I think Stuart believes that. So it's more
yeah.
just the fact that we use the term mobile first a lot and people are
Yeah.
focused on the wrong part of the problem.
But the
Obviously,
reason you're
it
doing
is mobile first
is because of the guest.
it's
Because the
first.
guest
Right.
is, yeah.
That's
Right.
where they are.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And in a year, it could be voice, it could be, wearables, it could be something else. But it's always going to be what does the guest need? And that's where I think these folks are breaking down.
Let me tell you, though, the MGM experience, and this is not so uncommon. I made a reservation, and then I needed to extend it for a day, but I made it in a group, and then the next day wasn't in the group. So I ended up having to make 2 reservations over 2 days. So when I checked in, I said, yeah, I have another reservation for another day. And they said, oh, yeah, we can't combine those. You've got to come down tomorrow and recheck in. And I'm like,
Right.
it's 2018.
It's mind-numbing because they don't understand it. Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, no. And we can't make the key work.
Yeah, even if there's to Robert's point, right? Even if the technology prevents them from doing that, there are easy ways to solve for that.
Absolutely.
You know what we're going to do is we're going to
take
check
care of
you
that.
in, and in the morning we're going to slide an envelope under the door with the new key.
That
Right.
was my expectation. I was like, well,
Yeah,
can't you just, and they were like, no, you have to come down. And you have to bring your credit card, and we have to put a $500 hold on your credit card for the second night. And I said, but I've actually already paid for that, so I don't really understand. And the rate was, 170 or something. And they're like, you know what? We can't actually explain why, but
Right.
we just know that's what we have to do.
That's the policy.
Right.
Yeah.
And I thought,
Right.
Yeah.
But that's a human problem. That is not a
it is.
technology
Right.
problem.
And
It's
in
a
that case, it's a
problem.
culture problem, right? Because
Yeah,
somewhere
right.
at the top, someone's running the hotel from spreadsheets, and they're not running it from a hospitality-centric
Yeah, that's
perspective.
right.
but I see that a lot at that, so the luxury, it's fantastic that, this is all
Oh yeah.
happening
but what
from
makes the
technology,
difference
but
at
the
the-
vast majority.
But what makes the difference at the luxury property? Why is it different? Because they take the time to invest in their people.
Right.
You do.
Because they
Fundamentally.
spend the
That's-
money to think it through,
That's
well,
what I mean.
no. But,
to make the
but
technology
key-
actually
Well,
work as a
No,
Okay.
buy
they
it off
take the
the
time
shelf.
to invest in their people.
Absolutely. And they
Right.
and they hire for the people. Again, I think
Right.
I've used this story a couple times. I got to use. Tim already did Four Seasons for the bingo card.
Bingo card, yeah.
So
doesn't
but
count,
the,
Robert.
but John Sharp, when he interviewed general managers, would set it up where he would walk across the lobby and he would drop a small piece of paper over the path that he's going to take the interview, the candidate across to the office. And if the person stopped and picked up the little piece of paper on the lobby floor, he knew. Now, that wasn't you've got the job, but if you didn't do that, there were serious questions, because Four Seasons wanted the kind of people who understood hospitality, and then they could train them the tasks that they needed to do, right? So it was, you understand hospitality, which is guest first, and now you got to do some stuff for our organization to make all this big machine work, right? And
Yeah.
that was the bottom line of it, right? And,
I
that was
stayed
the key to their success.
I stayed at a 5-star resort this past spring. I was part of a trip that I was on, and I worked at Leading for a long time. I am not a typical luxury customer. I don't have that kind of money. I wish I did.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Ed.
Somebody handle his website, so he's not doing too bad, right?
But I know, I know what. But I know what you should expect in those kind of properties. I know what true 5-star service looks like. I've been fortunate enough to experience it many times in my life, and it was amazing at this property how many little things that they got wrong that are what make the difference between a true 5-star and an aspirational 5-star. I want to be really fair. This was not a horrible experience. It was just little stuff that they missed again and again. The worst one from a guest experience perspective was I needed. We were flying out of Mexico. I needed to print my boarding pass because you could not.
That's my curious to print when I traveled. See, there's the story right there.
you couldn't use. They didn't have mobile boarding pass readers at the airport we were flying out of. It was a smaller regional airport, so you had to have a printed boarding pass, right? Mm-hmm. So I said. I contacted the concierge and I said, I need my boarding pass printed. And they said, absolutely. Please just email those to us and you can come down and pick them up in a few minutes.
Yep.
That's not how that works.
Right.
At a luxury.
Exactly.
I will email that to you and
That's
you
at
will
my
bring them
hotels.
to me when I'm. And I mean, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. If they did that in any of the properties I stay in regularly, I'd be like, absolutely. At a true luxury, true 5-star, that's not what's supposed to happen. And there were tons of little things beyond that. But I mean, that was just one where I was like, excuse me, I'll do what now?
Yeah. No.
The audacity of making me walk downstairs. How dare you, sir?
At a luxury property.
I'm just kidding. I know.
No,
Did you throw out, do you know who I am? Did you throw that at me?
Do you have any idea who you're talking to?
I say
the number of people.
I try never to punch down. I only do that if I'm talking to the general manager.
There you go.
Exactly. No, but the concierge aspect, and you see these articles now that you don't need concierges because you have technology. It's like, don't do that.
Don't do that.
The most important people in the hotel, there are 3: the general manager, the chef, and the concierge. Those 3 pillars set the tone for that property.
I don't know that they still say this, but somebody from Ritz-Carlton years ago, I was still leading at the time. So I don't know if they're still saying this, but they were adamant. It was some executive at Ritz-Carlton was at a conference I was attending and said adamantly, we will never put kiosks in our lobbies. because we will never want to miss that opportunity to interact with the guest and ensure that they get the appropriate level of service. You know, so they were adamant that, you know, that tech was bad because it removed what actually differentiates
because
them.
there should be an assistant manager who goes and greets them at the door that they already know from, you know, they came in from the taxi, they picked up the name off of the luggage tag, they already know who these people are. Go, oh, welcome back, Mr. Smith, and escort them up to the room. Hey, you know what? We need to have you have a signature if you want to do that or not. That's great. Anything I can help for you, I'm here. You know, if for some reason it's overnight and I'm not, you know, here's who you talk to. You know, Joe's the night manager, whatever the case may be. What do you need for me to make you, you know, a better, a better trip? Right. Period.
I mean, that's true luxury, right? That's what makes 5-star 5-star. It's not the amenities. It is that level of attention to personalized service at every touch point from the moment you arrive till the moment you get on a plane, is really the difference.
So the whole time that you are in the care of the innkeeper, right?
So absolutely.
How things started back in the Roman highways, and I know because I was there.
So to combine several stories, I was at a very nice place, and I had an extended extra day, and they needed me to change rooms. And what they did was they didn't tell me they needed me to change rooms. I went to my room, and my stuff was gone. They took my stuff.
Yeah.
So I go down to the front desk going, I got robbed because everything out of and the guy was being very snooty, and I saw red. I saw red. I was like so pissed that they would take my stuff or not even tell me they were going to be doing this kind of thing. They were totally, and it was a long story afterwards, and somebody got fired for it. But anyway, the general manager comes out and tries to act like
not executed. Lauren, come on, can't back off.
So the general manager comes out and tries to act all snooty and so forth, and I just saw red. And I'm like, look, dude, I used to be a GM hotel. He says, well, apparently not at a good one. I'm like, I tell you what, dude, you have 6 lights out, you have high dust on your top, you have stains on the front of your counter, and I just lit into him about his lobby, just standing there, because the curse of working in this industry is you walk into any place, you count light bulbs that are out, you count dirt on the floor, because that's what you used to do. That's when you walked around your own property. Right. You were constantly looking at stuff, different temperature lights, and whether one was out or whether the plants got cleaned or watered. It was a constant purveyance, And so I just lit up to him, and his staff is standing around. And it's like, and give me my freaking stuff back, And it just, I was very upset.
Which, by the way, I want to go back to something Robert said a minute ago. By the way, you have that same experience, the same positive experience at any level of property. I stayed at a Hampton Inn a year ago. I traveled cross country with my daughter. We drove her to Arizona, actually. And we stayed at a bunch of Hampton Inns along the way. And one of them in Oklahoma City, they were spectacular. Like, they could not have given us a higher level of this for the caliber of property it was and things along those lines. And to be fair, the product itself was a little tired. They were undergoing a renovation and things like that, but they could not have been marketing more friendly and more hospitable. And it was among the best customer service and guest experiences I've had in, just about any property that I wasn't paying, $800 a night for.
Oh, in that story, the housekeeper got fired because they found my toiletry bag in her locker. She figured that they were just taking the stuff out of the room, so she thought she could.
Hey, Jay is here someplace. Can we get him here?
Oh, does he tell him to raise his hand and we can add him?
Hey, Jay, raise your hand. He said he's here. Just joined. He just emailed me, but I don't see him anywhere.
There's a speaker request. If he puts in a speaker request,
I see his hand.
There he is. There he is.
You see his hand.
See his hand there.
Okay.
You should be able to join now.
So nobody laugh at any of his jokes.
I was going to laugh at every one of his jokes. He's hilarious.
Exactly.
All right. I said he could join, so he can add himself. If not,
Holly, you call me a nerd. He may be a bigger nerd about Star Wars than me. We geek.
Really?
We geek out pretty heavy. Yeah.
I am very aware of that.
Yeah. He sent me photos of his kids at Halloween.
He's not the same nerd as you.
It's a different kind of nerd. We're different flavor.
Yeah.
We're from different continents.
I'm more of a cool nerd than you.
Wow.
Harsh but fair. Harsh but fair.
That left a mark.
Wow. Fair.
Yeah. I got no response to that.
Well,
I'm
if
not
he's
cool
having
enough.
any problems, I mean, throw it in chat as to Jay, if because I can send him Ed's link maybe, or
Send him Ed's link.
let me get Ed's link.
Sorry for the technical. I want him to come on here.
Yeah. Let me,
By the way, while we're waiting for him to come on, I know we've already had the conversation, but Bob in the comments said mobile website needs to be easy to read in a loud room with people bumping into you and shifting illumination with loud islands of different sounds. You must be able to do whatever the user wants in 3 clicks. It's a great point, because the one thing we didn't talk about with mobile that people always forget is we have to think about mobile as a situation as well as a device, right? It's where are you when you're mobile? If you're sitting on your couch, that's one thing. But if I'm actually like running through an airport while dragging a suitcase, and trying to figure out where the hell my kids got to, that's a very different context, and it's really important that that's as seamless and simple as can possibly be.
So
for sure.
that actually reminds me of the other article that Robert posted about which apps you use when.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was a little bit surprised at how popular Snapchat is.
Well, it was by Snapchat. Okay.
Oh.
Snapchat was the one who produced that.
They sent it to all that Snapchat users. Said how.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. They didn't. Yeah. So.
But
it was-
Snapchat is still very popular among the young
demographics. Yeah.
It's a demographic thing, right?
Yeah.
But it's.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, my older daughter, who's 27, I believe, just deleted her Snapchat account. She stopped. My 21-year-old daughter still using it periodically for things mostly for just kind of goofy, goofy stuff with friends.
It's
Jay,
supposed
the
to
two
make
buttons
you
on the
happy.
top. There's a camera button and a microphone button on the top mid screen. You have to turn. There we are.
There's
There
the
we go.
camera.
There he is.
Yay.
Oh,
Although you look like you're in the witness protection program with the light
Program.
behind. So we have to make your voice sound like on a machine.
That's right.
Yeah, that
There
helps.
we go.
There we go. Yay.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My God, Jay,
Hi, Jay.
just so you know what's been going on, Holly has been talking about the digital marketing conference coming up, how you're co-hosting with her, and how she's completely carrying you on this.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah.
We're friends.
just if you could come up with to say something even slightly humorous, she's just trying to pull it out of you. She's just really struggling. So.
It's called pre-marketing. Jay.
She's terrified about the crickets. Is what it is.
Oh, audio.
Your audio's not on. There's
There's
a
a phone
Holly's
button as
muting
well.
is on. Holly can mute your audio too. She's probably an administrator. That's what's happening. Okay, there's a little competition here. So
Can we hear you now?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. Hey.
Was not bad. Okay.
Come on as
Yes, I-
Dr. Evil. Yesterday he started doing voices. I was like, oh geez.
Well, Holly,
Oh,
the
really?
details of my life are quite inconsequential.
Nobody laugh.
Oh, it's going to be a good conference. It's going to be a good conference.
Very well then. My father was a self-relentlessly boulangerie owner with low-level narcolepsy and penchant for buggery.
I like how you use Stuart's accent for that too. That's great.
That's funny.
And also his bias.
Yeah, exactly. That was my dad. He described.
Right. Was your
So,
mother
yeah.
a French prostitute named Chloe with webbed feet?
Finally, you should mention it. Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
So-
Stuart's life, summers in Rangoon, luge lessons. In the spring, he used to make meat helmets.
By the way, Holly, you're doomed.
I am not
Yeah.
empty.
Yeah.
I am
Yeah.
just sitting here thinking, what
Holly
have I
said
done?
that you were as much of a geek as Stuart was, but Stuart wasn't as
Cool.
It's cool.
Cool.
Yeah, Jay's cooler than me, apparently.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Still a nerd.
Yeah.
Still a nerd, yes. Stuart will be happy to know that today my boys turn 8 years old,
Aw.
and
twins.
basically their entire present pyramid is nothing but Lego Star Wars.
Awesome.
Hope they're not
That's so
watching.
cool.
yes.
Yeah, I'm sure his 8-year-old.
I hope
We have a
nothing
huge
changed in the
8-year-old
second grade
demographic
classroom.
on the
Yes,
show. So,
I agree with that.
It's the audience that carries us.
Yep.
That's funny.
So topic, or shall we talk about the conference since it's in a weekish and away? And we have not only the co-hosts of the conference, but we have speakers of the conference as well, also on the show. So it's like it's a pre-mini conference in that sense to it. So which way do we want to go with the conversation for you? Do you want to pick another topic out of Robert's well-curated list, or shall we talk a little bit about the upcoming conference? What would you like to do?
Let's talk for a minute, if we could, about the conference, and then go back.
We should.
Perfect. All yours.
Oh, so come
Well, one thing I
on
will not
January
so funny
23rd.
now, is it?
Oh, you mean now? On stage now, right?
So it's important that everyone know we're talking about the HSMAI Digital Marketing Strategy Conference, January 23rd in freezing New York City, which does not amuse me. And the day before, when's the Adrian? Tuesday night.
It is Tuesday.
Tuesday.
So
22nd.
Tuesday during the day, I'm teaching the CHDM prep class. Do all of you have your CHDMs? Stuart.
No, but I don't have it, but I wrote the material for it.
I was going to
so.
say, maybe
I wrote
you could.
I wrote the first chapter.
I used that for a long time until Holly just says, "Will you freaking just take the dang test?"
Honest to
Yeah.
God. Jay, you have yours.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to do the prep course, but I'm speaking at the resort group are having their retreat, their annual retreat, and I'm speaking at that. So
there's a bunch of stuff going on that I think is cool. So Tuesday, I'm teaching for 4 hours in the afternoon, CHDM prep class. Hebs Digital and Milestone are both offering like 3 different 1-hour classes, and that's all free. My prep class
Very
isn't
cool
free, but
stuff.
yeah, their stuff is free.
Well, free with your registration, mind you.
Yeah, as long as you're registered for the conference.
Right.
And
then,
I heard if you went to Holly's CHDM prep class, she was going to cover your Adrian Awards registration for that evening.
precisely. And then the Adrian Awards is Tuesday night, and which opens with the top 25 most extraordinary minds, of which, shockingly, Jay Hubbs is a recipient
Wasn't
this year.
recognized earlier. Yeah.
Exactly.
They're finally getting it right. God knows.
Yeah. How many years have you been doing this?
Exactly. Finally, the recognition for a lot.
Finally, yes. Very excited. So that'll be very nice.
That'll be very cool.
I think Holly has thrown in a towel on which one of us is the smart one. She's now just vying for the funny one.
I just want to be the funny one. I thought I had that one.
Now she's concerned she's going 0 for 2. But we'll see.
Sad.
Hey, Holly's the eye candy. Holly's the eye candy. It's just
We're
the
in
same
big trouble.
It's the same reason we have Lauren on this show. What can we say?
The eye candy.
Yeah.
Wait, I thought I was the pretty one.
it's a relative statement, I guess.
Oh, man.
Right.
I am not amused.
But
And then,
we
what?
will let the audience select the winner on the ladder.
Yeah, I was very confident that I would win, so I said, "Oh, let's let the audience vote." Crap.
Now I know you'll just have plans in the
incentives.
audience.
Yeah, I'm going to have to do some incentives.
Incentive.
And then the Wednesday is the
Wednesday
digital
morning.
marketing conference. Oh, wait, sorry. Also on Tuesday is the Resorts Best Practice, and then Wednesday is the digital marketing conference, which
Stuart, you're speaking at the Resorts Best Practice?
Yeah, I've spoken to that the last three years. I'm talking about AI and voice and how it can be implemented in 2019. So tangible stuff with
Really?
Yeah.
Excellent.
why aren't you speaking at the digital conference?
I didn't apply for it this year.
I
so
know.
I figured, I should have probably, but I
Well,
didn't. So
despite that,
He's
we
playing
do
hard
have a
to get,
number
you know.
of fantastic speakers. So Jay and I are the MCs, and that'll be fun-ish. And
Depending how hungover one or both of us are.
yeah,
Exactly.
poor Jay gets this big award the night before.
Yes.
That's a new
objective.
Holly, get them really going, and that
What's
way
that,
you can just
Tim?
talk. Boom. Yeah.
Jay'll just be
I refuse to
down on
win
the stage
using
with his
those
hand.
methods.
I'll help you. It's okay. Jay, have another drink.
Oh no! My goal is to make sure Holly is the most hungover.
All right. Change of plans.
Let's have a competition. We each take one, and we just see who can get them hammered.
Exactly.
We are meeting with our HSMAI leaders, if you will, to plan things out, and I've yet to ask for a bucket off stage, but hopefully that
So you'll be getting the velvet jacket the day before, huh? The top 25, the coveted private club, the secret handshake.
velvet jacket. Yeah, right.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
The part where you get, I understand this year they're chipping them though. They're chipping them and doing the tattoo. Is that a new process?
Oh yes. There is the mandatory tattoo on the buttocks. Yeah.
On stage.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, that's
On stage. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're using that born identity, chipping process.
Yeah. And then we are going to be doing the live coverage outside. We're going to try to drag everybody off stage and do live interviews. Post on that, so we'll have some.
Well,
fun.
not like after they're off the stage, not dragging them off the stage.
Well,
Lauren's going to be more aggressive this year to make sure he gets the people he wants to talk to.
Well, now he's got some real MCs he's got to deal with. So
yeah. Now I got some some help.
So we have Gopi talking about
Khalil, yeah,
virtual assistant.
Gopi will be
who?
great.
What's his last name?
Khalil, I can pronounce it.
Good. You're introducing him.
Khalil. Yes, Gopi and I go way back, actually. So he
Why?
graciously.
Where?
Why?
How do you know him? So now, not only are you smart and funny, but you know Gopi.
Jay was an AI engineer at Google years ago. Yeah.
Jay actually built Watson. They were together at IBM. They won Jeopardy and then thought they would branch out into other things.
Was that before or after the Nobel Peace Prize Jay got? And was that? I can't remember.
That was before the Peace Prize.
Okay.
But after the Pulitzer.
Okay. There we go.
Oh, sure.
You threw down your emeritus status at Stanford. I think that was about that same time.
Yeah, it was around that same time.
So how do you know Gopi?
How do I know Gopi? Remember on the smart one, Holly?
Things are not looking good, Holly. Things are not looking good.
I speak Russian.
All right,
Really?
It might come up.
You can get a job at the White House.
So wait, what?
You can get a job at the White House.
Dozvidanya.
Does Vidanya.
I think they got plenty of Russian speakers there already.
vodka.
Okay, move on.
So he's talking about virtual assistants, which is going to be very cool. We
It will be
have
good.
the CMO roundtable, which is going to be really interesting, I think.
I think it's always a good session.
Yeah.
That's all.
I think there's one year it wasn't quite as hard hitting or in depth, but usually there's some good insights.
So what was really interesting is last year we had asset managers instead of CMOs.
Mhm.
And I loved it, but it was not a big hit. People didn't love it.
That's too bad.
Well, I don't know the numbers. I'm hearing this for the first time. I would assume at the digital marketing strategy council,
Right.
council
Audience.
conference. I would imagine that it's an audience mismatch rather than interesting information, right?
I agree because I felt like the one at Rock was fairly well received, and the feedback or the commentary from the asset managers I think were very spot on for a revenue management audience, but for a digital / marketing focused audience, there's going to be a bit of a gap there.
So perhaps
we do get a lot of rev
with
management at
those.
this conference. We do get a lot of rev management folks. We do get a fair number of sales folks, but it is primarily a group of marketers. So yeah, I can see how that would be a bit of a mismatch. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say, Robert?
Oh no, I was just going to say. So you perceive a gap with the asset managers and the marketing category, huh? That's something the industry should maybe look at.
Yeah, that's what I thought was sort of interesting.
Yeah.
What else do we have?
I actually have done some marketing training for asset managers on the Ashford side. And when I first started here, I did a marketing and distribution 201 because I assumed they had 101, and I got a lot of blank stares. And at least they were upfront saying like, no, you're already talking in gibberish and you're only 5 minutes in. I'm like, okay,
Right.
so let's just take this presentation I just did.
So what you're saying is you're even too smart for asset managers.
Am I going to get quoted saying that?
I believe Holly, you just said it. He didn't.
Holly just said it.
Yeah.
Do not get me in trouble with upstairs, Holly.
Got it.
Exactly.
Oh,
Right.
a chink in the armor.
I remember when Sloan
Chink armor.
when I was in Dallas and come in and talk to the asset managers about marketing.
Right.
And
we had you come in. You're right.
yeah, and I know exactly that blank stare you're talking about. It's like, this is something I really don't need to know. I don't know how to make the sausage. I don't know. I just want sausage. I don't want to know what happens. Just tell me that you can make things happen, not how it happens. And they get that look like, hey, look, just give me the end product. I don't need to know the process of it.
Yeah, I think right. We brought you in about a year and a half after I told him about the sausage, and then
I didn't fare any better.
And the good thing is it's very well received. They appreciate knowing more about it, but I think it's one of those things, like if you're not doing it every day or into it, and you're managing 20 hotels or something, you're right. Like, this is what I'm paying you or the brand or whoever to do for me. I don't want to know about it stuff. But.
Yeah.
I realize this is slightly a bit of a digression, but that's kind of what we do here. But when I first started consulting, one of my first pitches was to a group of asset managers, and I had not pitched to managers before and things like that. And it didn't go great. Because I started talking about, booking and, TripAdvisor and the importance those have, your yielding and things like that, thinking they're going to care about the money. They just didn't care. And again, it was very much that question about, why are you talking about TripAdvisor? That has nothing to do with what we do. Yeah. And I was like, and literally that literally was something somebody said, and I was like, okay, hey, ignore all the slides I brought. To the end.
Let's just talk.
Yeah.
They don't care where those customers come from, just as long as they sleep in, thing, and their credit card clears.
Pay their bills.
They pay a high rate.
Yeah. So I didn't know that there's actually a secret organization of asset managers that have a club. I was invited to speak to them in Chicago one time, and I refined actually because of the blank stares that I got with Sloan and the team when I was talking about asset management. And I learned my lesson that when I went in front of them the next time, I just said, so if you gave me $1 and I gave you $20 back, how many dollars do you want to give me? And they said, as much as you want. I says, great. You want to know how it's done, or you just want me to do it? Well, we kind of like to know what we're spending it on. Great. We'll keep it at a high level. And really, honestly, it was an inversion of the conversation. They want to go down and stop you when there's like, that's far enough. Rather than, starting from the beginning and talking about how the earth was formed. They don't want it. They just want to know when we're starting to live on it. And it worked out really well. Literally, because I walked away from that conversation with Sloan and them going, we told them all the stuff that we thought we wanted to hear, and that was the problem. They didn't want to hear that part. They just wanted to know the top end part of it, the impact value of it, and what it was involved to get that level of return kind of stuff. So, in that way, it was very educational for me from that process.
But
it's funny how my pitch turned into that, but...
Don't you think that that's part of the challenge? The first hour of the show, we've been talking about how there's a lack of hospitality in the hospitality industry. But it's when, with asset managers being detached from the hospitality side, not wanting to know what happens in the black box, is that not what causes some of the problems we've just been discussing?
Yes.
Well, it's the real estate. It's a pure real estate situation. And look at what happens now. I mean, you've got shopping malls and strip mall and all these things where the experience, it isn't necessarily that, yes, it's much easier to buy things online with Amazon, things like that, but there's still a lot of interest in retail. But all of a sudden people go, well, I don't want to go hiking with a parking lot and the throngs of crowds, and how do I do it? I mean, from a pure real estate perspective, that made sense then. How does it change? And I think that's what they're going through, is here's the this was the model, and here's how we measured the metrics, and we did this, and it was pure. And when markets are going up, right? Because again, I don't know with these asset managers, but many of them, when did they really start in the industry, or at least in their roles? It may have been all during this, this uptick.
True.
And so they may have not have been through a downturn yet,
Yeah.
which will be quite eye-opening for them. And
Reset
It's
some
always fun to go
expectations.
through that
for
the
sure.
first time.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
So back to the conference.
Yeah.
Yes.
We have
Thanks,
3
Holly.
breakout tracks
Mhm.
because our audience has grown. And so now we're breaking people up into 3 different. We used to always do 2. We have marketing strategy. We have sort of a tactics track if you'd rather focus on how to get stuff done. And then we have a cross-discipline integration track where we really talk about how
Wow.
sales, revenue, e-commerce overlap. And so we have 2 or 3 breakout sessions
And there are some
for each time slot.
There are some excellent speakers on that cross-discipline integration track.
Like who, Jay, for
Um,
example?
Well, Chris LaRose.
Exactly. Yeah, Chris LaRose, Andrew Rubinacci. Andrew
Andrew
Rubinacci,
Rubinacci,
he's
right to the Essex Stream.
fantastic.
I think there's
Yeah,
another
yeah.
one here somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's a panel. There's some sort of
Yeah, there's a
panel.
panel.
Yeah.
No, but
Wait
all
for it.
joking
Wait for
aside, all joking aside,
Tim Peter of Tim Peter and Associates.
Peter,
I had
yeah.
no idea he was available.
Tim,
That's the
what are you
track
moderating?
I'm on?
No,
That's the
what are you
track I'm on? I thought
moderating?
you were talking about a different track altogether. The integrated marketing panel
Okay, there you go.
with
I think it'll be great.
Adrian Award winners talking about how they did integrated marketing.
Very excited, which is a new category this year in the Adrians.
It is a new category this year. New Adrian Award. Yep.
And then
And Robert, what are you talking about?
Amy Cheek and I are talking about influencer marketing, that it isn't just like finding somebody out there to go take a picture and throw a hashtag on the site. There's a little bit more than that too.
I'm sure you've talked about this before. It isn't really finding them because they find us, right?
Right.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And if you're reactive, if you're proactive, you can go out and find good ones.
Yeah,
But,
I would say finding good ones is the way to go. The ones that are reaching out to you probably aren't the best, right?
Exactly.
I'll let the board you
want-
determine how often I do this to Holly during the conference.
You can't do that on TV. We're on the TV.
Of course you can.
It's the internet. Of course you can.
You can do anything you want.
He does that to me all the time.
I'm sure you're aware, Holly. If anybody has a chance to see it when you're in New York, it's closing. It's off Broadway.
Oh my gosh.
I love
that.
It was the Tony Award winner. It beat out Wicked for Tony Award for Best
That's
Musical. I will admit it is aged not spectacularly, but mostly it's still pretty good. However, it has the classic song, "The Internet is for
porn. Best song ever.
Best song ever. Best song ever. Sung by the company. It's Sesame Street for Kids. And they basically have Cookie Monster, except he is Trekkie Monster. And, the first person singing the song, you have to understand, he talks like Cookie Monster. He says things like, "Oh, me sorry, me no mean to," stuff like that. And literally this nice little character.
Which sounds like some people who tweet regularly now.
Exactly.
That's true.
But just to give you a sense, and this is the only time I will ever do public, but you get your recorders ready, folks. She starts out singing, "The internet is really, really great." And then Trekkie Monster shows up and goes, "For porn."
Right.
I am so sound snipping this. It is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, it's really good that all those years in college learning how to sing opera, had to do the Trekkie Monster voice in front of people. So that's like,
Hey, actually, just
my career arc is complete.
for individuals who certainly there's the Adrians to contend with, and there are other things going around the conference. But if you're spending a couple of additional days in New York, please note that it is Theater Week, and there are many top shows with 2-for-1 tickets. So
Not Hamilton, by the way.
not Hamilton, but I'm
Well, that's Kill a
I'm
Mockingbird.
taking my wife and daughter to go see My Fair Lady at Vivian Beaumont
nice.
Theater at,
Yeah,
at
nice.
Lincoln Center, which is a great
Great venue.
classic show,
Very
and
nice.
much
One thing-
nicer at half price tickets, I would say.
One thing that we have to do, Holly, at the end of the conference is we have to, because I'm doing the marketing for it, and been plugged with the website. And of course, we fun stuff like the albatross that shows the companies touching the website and so forth, and the latencies associated with what businesses are touching the bookings and so forth. And it's going to be fun to kind of debrief that in comparison to the engagement that we had at the conference. The actual attendees and so forth. I really want to try to cross over the lead up of the engagement of people that did book versus those that actually were there, and really break it down, because we have for the first time some really cool data that did not exist ever before this. And it'll be kind of fun to really see how this works together.
That the Digital Marketing Conference has good digital data. I'm excited.
So where can people subscribe? Where can people sign up for the Digital Marketing Strategy Conference?
Lauren,
Very nice.
what's the best place?
Oh, I do what I can. I try.
Remember the thing where they said it was supposed to be 3 clicks in mobile?
Yeah, don't. There is a fall down to.
So where can people sign up for the Digital Marketing Strategy?
You can go to HSMAI Digicon is the shortest link that I can give you.
But you can always find it at hsmai.org.
Or at the website, go to the events, and then from events, go to the conference. From the conference, go to the registration page. From the registration page, go to the reg link. Then sign up and put yourself in membership, or do a non-member, and then go into the,
Hey, you want people attending
You'll
these
figure it
conferences.
out.
Yeah,
It is.
but HSMAI Digicon is the shortest. That's
It
the
is
shortest.
not run by Amazon Web Services. So.
Hey, speaking of which, we have the 7-minute, quick presentations.
Yeah, the lightning round
that we always do after lunch, which I love. And one of them is Amazon Web Services, AWS Innovations. So I'm really excited about that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I think that's going to be great. That was recently added. We have David Adkins talking about AI.
Mhm.
Yes.
There's a lot of AI theme to our conference. In addition to what Holly is putting together. I will say Holly and I, but really it's Holly.
Yeah,
Together,
I get the
opening.
one thing.
Oh, wait. So, Jay, are you saying Holly's intelligence is artificial where yours is authentic?
I put together the opening video that Jay wanted to be Star Wars based, but I couldn't figure it out. So we took
Just
a
for
different
Stuart.
path.
Yeah, I'm in favor of that decision.
Yeah, that was the beginning video for a while, but we had to change it.
Mhm. We've changed it.
It's never too late to put Star Wars in the presentation.
Tim, you're
So,
complimented by Bob.
the day
I might see some in
after,
there.
You're on the
so
sidebar.
that night, a lot of us from the advisory board are going to the Google offices in New York for a big dinner. I'm very excited about that.
Nice.
That's cool.
Did you ever go to
And
the
where
YouTube
we will share
video?
with Google Tim's critique of AMP. So, yeah,
Yeah.
Yes, we'll share with it. Did you?
By all
Did you,
means, please do.
that's right.
did you ever make it to the YouTube studios in New York? Google's YouTube studios.
No.
It is crazy.
Yeah,
it is
crazy.
so cool. They have. It's one of the. They only have, I think, 6 studios globally right now. New York's the smallest, but it has. What it is it's all free equipment to anybody that has over 100,000 subscribers, and this is premium equipment. And it's, I mean, red boxes and all this stuff, studios, audio studios, video studios, everything, state-of-the-art stuff. And it's just, you go in and you can do shows and do stuff, and it's just the creativity that's there. You're watching people do stuff and you're like, wow, I didn't even know that stuff was even on YouTube. Yeah, it's really neat stuff.
And then
Very
Friday is Thursday, the day after,
Thursday.
is the Chief Digital Officer Roundtable.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It seems like one other meeting too. The Americas Board is meeting on Monday.
There you
It's
go.
a busy week in New York City.
That's right.
Well, that depends. The TSA lets us actually fly there. I mean, that's there is getting some pushback on
Right.
stuff because
What?
Well, because-
if planes are actually certified to fly and TSA is working and
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that.
minor detail. You're driving, right, Holly? You drive
Yeah,
everywhere, right?
Uh-huh.
You're driving.
From Arizona.
Hey, I just did that drive. I just did that drive after Thanksgiving last year, 2017. So it was a lovely drive. I had a great time.
From New
I
York
really did.
to
I'm serious.
Phoenix?
I drove from New Jersey to Phoenix. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
wow.
Yep.
Yeah,
5 days with my 19-year-old daughter. We only listened to the Hamilton soundtrack 37 times. It was great.
Holly and Jay, if you guys are really good with this, you should go to the Academy Award thing and be the host, because it's going to be a hostless.
That's true.
Jay has some bad history of tweets, so we can't even talk about it.
Oh.
Mine are perfectly fine.
Yours are all clear.
Actually, most people don't know this, but Jay is Kevin Hart's stunt double. In all of the movies.
He's an outstanding actor, and the acting ability is just tremendous. Yeah.
I know. It's amazing. It's amazing the special effects that they do, because most people think you're too tall to play him.
Right. That is true acting talent. Exactly.
By the way, it is the top of the hour. It is noon Central, 1 Eastern. And I have a commitment at 1:30 and need to eat beforehand, or else nobody likes you. Nobody likes you when you're hangry.
That's true.
And just imagine with Tim's disposition earlier in the show.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right?
He needs to
And that was right after breakfast, so he's already in a good mood.
And a Snickers is not going to do it, huh?
Snickers is not going to do it. No. Absolutely.
Well, it's too bad you have to go, because we should talk now about the article that Robert posted that features J Hubs. God, we can't get rid of him.
Well, before Tim runs, Tim, if people want to know more about Tim Peter Associates, and everything, where else can they find you, sir?
See me at the HSMAI conference in 2 weeks, which you can register for by going to HSMAI DigitalCon. Was that okay?
Digicon, yes.
Digicon. There you go.
Yeah.
Or you can go to timpeter.com. But, either way is good.
Thank you.
Good to see you,
And
Pete.
TPP
Thank you,
on
Tim.
Hey, Tim.
Good to see you, Zob. Lovely seeing you all. I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you next week on the show. 2 weeks in New York City. So,
All right.
Wow,
Stay
you're
well,
on the
everybody.
show
Soon.
again. That's fantastic. Oh,
Yeah.
All right, later.
Bye. Tim.
Bye.
All right. Yeah, so now we can talk about the article, and we can talk about Tim now that he's gone.
I was saying now we can talk about Tim.
Yeah.
Kidding.
Kidding. All right. So, how revenue management is becoming revenue strategy is the article.
Which means
yeah.
it didn't have any strategy previously, I take it.
It was pushing buttons and pulling levers, according to the article, right?
Exactly.
Yes, completely. That's all it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Marco from Duetto has been trying to coin that revenue strategy term for quite a while. Like every time I've spoken with him, he puts it in there. It's like, oh, we're trying to get everyone to change what people are saying from revenue to revenue strategy.
Well, and the sponsor of that page was Duetto, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yes, it was.
Yep.
Sponsor of that get together, Duetto with Hotel News Now.
Yeah.
yeah.
But that goes back to one of our earlier statements, Holly, that we were talking about. There is with the maturity of what's going on, there is a distinction now between facilitation and strategy. That there's these tools. Okay, when we were talking about your influencer program for sales and so forth, and people are aware of them, but they don't. Not a lot of people know how to actually facilitate the usage of them to make them do what they're supposed to do or what they could be used for.
Mm-hmm.
The strategy component is floating out there, and it's this very small nexus of people that actually see the picture of how to use these things in the space, because there's God knows tools, Duettos, SiteMiners, Rainmaker, ideas, they're all out there. It's what you really make
and
them.
you can learn them all.
Yeah.
And you can learn them all?
Well,
Is that what you said?
yes, learning the strategy is harder than teaching
Learning
someone how to push the buttons, right? Or
Yes.
use the tool, or to Lauren's point, figure out what are things that I can do with the tool to get me where I want to go, right?
Right. Which should
and
be
that's
the
where I
key.
think there's definitely a gap.
It needs to start with the strategy because, and with Tim gone, I know he would say this, so I will say it in his stead. If you only have a hammer, every problem looks like a nail, right? So
That should almost be a bingo card.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, I mean, I've often complained too is that all these great tools come up, but it's like handing keys to a spaceship, and all they're doing is trying to spark a rock to make a fire. The things can be done with these things that are astronomically valuable, but they're never really used for their purpose. Or how often do we see systems that have been handed to a property or to an organization, and they're used at a minimalist capacity of only what was trained? I mean, I don't know whether, Holly, you were the one that pointed out way back in the day that Xerox training. One person got trained on a platform, And then when somebody got hired, whatever that person retained was only shared to that next person. It really wasn't, they got the whole training. So by the third generation, you have a very small nexus of usability because only what was passed on was what was retained from the previous trainer. And they didn't get the full scope of it. And that we find in a lot of places, which it goes back to one of the other things we pointed out, that we go to hotels and there's a lot of technology that isn't being utilized because there's nobody there who knows how to push the big buttons, to make the things work.
And it does seem like revenue management is sort of the leader in this area of ensuring that someone's giving some thought to strategy. More so, I think, than e-commerce, certainly, unfortunately, more than sales.
Well, I think we're at the cusp of something new, right? Because before Fuel specialized in hospitality, we did a lot of work with e-commerce clients in other areas. And the one thing that always surprised me about hospitality is there's such a disconnect. There's silos of information and strategy. And there's no other industry in the world where who controls the pricing is different than who controls the distribution or the messaging or the marketing and stuff like that, right? So hospitality is very unique in that. And I think what I'm beginning to see with the larger groups of clients that I'm working with is it's not that rate managers being sitting there just willy-nilly pressing buttons, not thinking about why. They've had their own strategy, but it's a strategy limited to what the price is tonight or tomorrow or whatever. What's beginning to happen, I think, is the strategy we're really talking about is it's just a broad business goal strategy, and it's bringing together a conversation between marketers, between the revenue managers and more teams. So what I'm beginning to see, and you guys might see the same or different, but whereas these were completely different independent departments previously, they're beginning to get pushed closer together with someone over the top, whether that's a chief strategy officer or it's the marketing officer is now in charge of revenue management or whatever.
Well, commercial is the word we're using a lot.
What is it?
Chief commercial officer.
Okay, so and that's more aligned with e-commerce, right? A lot of them, the big e-commerce clients or our clients used to have a chief commercial officer or a chief strategy officer that would encompass all of that. And so everything was in alignment. So I think that's what really we're beginning to see here in the hotel industry. I hope we are, because it's the right thing to do.
Well, again, I think it goes to the levels of crossover communication that are descending down more into a unit by unit way. We talked about the asset managers. Asset managers and at that level of strata of our management were really the only connecting points between siloed departments. They talked to the revenue team, and then they would talk to the marketing team, and they would talk to the operations team, but the teams themselves weren't necessarily collaborating. And as the asset manager may or may not be engaged at a level of either not necessarily understanding, but willful understanding, being hands-on or something, sometimes probably critical information wasn't conveyed correctly where they could collaborate better. We're now creating those collaborations out of necessity that honestly, revenue management needs to talk to marketing so that they can facilitate the strategy. By the same token, operations needs to be talking to marketing to know what the fulfillment requirements are. So there's by necessity, if people are saying, well, if they're not going to tell us from above, we need to be talking between ourselves anyway. So it's kind of a maturation of understanding that we need to cross over the aisle, so to speak, and start talking to people because they're affecting what we can do as well. So, yeah.
So, Jay, I'm curious at Remington, how close are you with your sales leadership? How much conversation does e-commerce have with sales?
Not as much as we should. How's that? I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm not a bit surprised. We had yesterday a preview of one of the breakout sessions. We had our monthly marketing advisory board call, and we had Robert Patterson, who's going to be doing a segment on personalization. And it was all B2C, of course, is what the focus of personalization was. And I said, what about B2B? Like, what about group sales? There's almost nothing in the world of digital marketing and the sales discipline. And I mean, it's, 14, 15% of your business.
Yeah. We talk about, obviously, how much intermediation there is on the group side now.
Right.
And I don't want to say who's responsible for what, because that is definitely a crossover area. But I'll give you a good example. We were putting together documentation around how to use LinkedIn effectively And it turns out my sales counterparts are doing the exact same thing. And these two documents were created organically through different directives, if you will, and were produced around the same time. And then all of a sudden I looked at my EVP of sales like, we should talk about this. So we have
what did they look like?
Did you message about how our sales teams should be using LinkedIn and other social channels to promote our hotels and their brand, right?
And how did they compare? Did you compare them side by side? I'd be
Well,
curious.
which one was better? I mean, come on.
Well, yeah.
It was like the Jay and Holly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They had more Star Wars.
It was the right answer and the wrong answer.
One had more pictures.
One had more pictures. At least one from this century, so. But
That
there
is
was,
quite a
there
story.
was a lot of overlap, and for a while I did a lot of webinars for our teams, and we did a couple on social media. We did one specifically on LinkedIn, and not surprisingly, the feedback I got was very stratified. Right, like some sales leaders said, "This is amazing. This was great. This was helpful. I want more of this." And some said, "Oh my God, that was the dumbest thing ever. That was a waste of time. I already knew all this." Right. And so you have a big sales organization. You've got so many different levels. I mean, it kind of goes back to your Xerox piece too, right, Lauren? Like you've got so many different levels of experience and knowledge and what they need to be trained on. We don't have a good sense of, a checklist,
What they know.
sort of old school, like, what do you know about this? Let's go back to my asset managers. I made an inherent assumption about that mental checklist of all the things that they knew about, and that was not really the case. Now, some did, but not all. And the same sort of thing happens with sales. And, on the flip side, there are things about, sales tools or intermediaries, et cetera, that they know better than I do, but there's not good collaboration back the other way. So it is a good question, Holly. It is something that we as a company can certainly do better at.
As an industry, really, I've seen.
Yeah.
Not to just help on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn's marketing
I can't hear.
are wicked cool. I mean, their marketing tools in LinkedIn that's one of the most effective campaigns I have running right now for the conference is the LinkedIn campaigns.
Oh,
Because because that's your audience.
It's industry specific. It's geographic specific. It's title specific. It allows for a lot of very good focused targeting that are on other terms are more demographically associated. You can isolate out by some stuff, but the LinkedIn one is very specific to it, and it's doing very well.
Right. But be cautious. I mean, it's not for it's a certain demographic. So
if
you're a leisure destination hotel,
something
it's
like that. No.
Yeah, for sure. It is a powerful tool, though, especially for groups.
Speaking of which, Facebook, have you seen the changes Facebook's done? Their analysis and attributions tools now, they're like Google Analytics.
Oh, yeah.
You can create crazy. Yeah. I just started messing with the attribution tool, and I'm like, wow, this is crazy good stuff.
I just finished the social media advertising chapter for the CHDM last night. And so I did a sort of deep dive into Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn advertising. And so I went through audience targeting, ad creation, and then the analytics. And it's astounding to me.
Yeah,
it's powerful. Yeah. Really powerful.
It is good, cool stuff.
If you have somebody who looks at it and analyzes it.
Well, and they have a good strategy, right? Because you could make the best targeted campaign and grow your list or whatever you're trying to do, but it might not be the right objective for your strategy. So it all comes back to what that article was about, which is you need a plan based on your business objectives at the beginning.
Yeah,
right.
And Facebook really does a fantastic job of trying to get you to think through your strategy before you start. I mean, they really, walk you along every step of the way, more so than LinkedIn. LinkedIn, you have to come to it with a little bit more.
For sure.
Oh, bye, Jay. Bye-bye.
Hello, Jay. Oh, he's coming back.
Oh, he's back.
Coming back.
But that being said, too,
but that's in their best interest, right? They want happy people.
They want successful campaigns so that people want to keep spending money.
Yeah.
But it goes back to like a conversation I just had with one of my clients. It's a small hotel, and it's coming into season, so the big hotels around them are going to dump a whole mess of money into their OTA programs to generate OTA business and so forth, and they're throwing their hands up, going, "Oh heck, we're not going to be able. We're going to be very expensive to try to put ourselves in market because now the big boys are putting all their monies in. We have small budgets." And you're sitting back going, and I snickered, and they asked me why I was snickering, and I said, "Well, because that's wrong." Because you're nimble and small. You can target. You can make great impacts for yourself with small gains. Going to your influencer thing, Robert, you're going to talk about. You can target your audiences and make them be the voice to you, where you don't have to pay for the audience. You pay for the communication to the audience and just stuff like that, and targeting with the Facebook and being able to see where your business trail comes from and target them specifically because of the opportunity you have, because you can identify them rather than, oh, we just got to put up the big banner and spend a lot of money that says buy here and discount and rate and date. It's a mindset change that people have to understand, that these tools are there. Again, strategy, looking at how to use them. Do we have time for the rut-row?
I would hope so. Holly was very eagerly wanting to cover the rut-row at the top of the show, but we
Jay,
made her be
Yes.
Do you get the thing that Robert sends out every week, all of the articles that you have?
I'm looking it up now. What's our rut-row?
Well, you're in it.
The rut-row is
No, self-centered
No.
Jay.
the rut-row
Is that really?
is a particular general manager who responded to a negative review on TripAdvisor.
On TripAdvisor, yeah.
And so now a flexible category, a lot of stuff times it's like what not to do, but this was an incredibly clever. This had the wit of something like Jay would have replied to. I would really think that this would be, it was that level of quality in terms of the wit and comedy. So the individual who did it, maybe I should pull out a couple of quotes, of classic quotes. Basically, the person.
In our staff, there's eye patches and pantaloons.
Well, that's
Yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah,
Yep, that's the one.
So it was the Doolin Hotel in County Clare, Ireland. So I don't know if I should read it, but it basically
Read the execution paragraph.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Well, he started out by saying, "Thank you for staying with us on your recent trip and posting your feedback. We're very disappointed with the content of your review. However, after investigating the particulars with the team members, even more disappointed to learn the content of the review was not an accurate reflection." Okay, so he kind of sets that up. And then, yes, he starts off with, he must have accidentally wandered into something with pirates and people who are just doing horrible, deceitful, dishonest, sorts of things. But then he goes through and he talks about Emma, because Emma made a genuine mistake, but they rectified it, right? And this person was just absolutely venting. So let's.
But also,
see.
my favorite was the comment about how it was full of curmudgeonly old men.
Oh yeah,
Right.
yeah. Their staff was curmudgeonly old men like Emma, and then sometimes people need just to vent. Sometimes at night when I come home from a long stay work at the hotel, I check to see if everyone is in bed, and then I go out in the field in the back of my house and scream into the darkness. I let it all out like a wolf on a moonlit mountain. So I feel better, and nobody gets hurt and things like that. So he doesn't know his circumstances, doesn't know if that's going to be great or anything like that. Let's see, there you talked about the 3 men over the age of 40. We've decided to execute all 3 of these men to ensure that no other guests will have to endure the horrific ordeal that went through that evening in the bar. Right? Paul, Martin, and Lewis will be blindfolded and shot in the back of the head at Fitz's Cross after Mass on Sunday. There will be traditional music, cocktail sausages, and face painting for the kids. And I can organize a pair of complimentary tickets for you if you wish to attend. See, so he's trying to make better with this.
And he did end up by
running a hotel in Ireland.
Yeah, and then he closed with, in fact, each year on the 30th of February, we have a party for our valued past customers who think we are liars. We all hold hands and dance around a campfire and sing songs, help us forget about the past and look with hope towards the future. We'd love if you could make it. That lighting cheating ruffian Emma won't be there, we promise. So yeah,
Wow.
it was
Had to be
well
incredibly
done.
satisfying for him to write that.
Oh, you know
Yeah.
that
Oh,
you
yeah.
know that was a purge off of his soul to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Go, yep.
Yep.
It is great in so many ways, but I don't know that I can say it was the right response. I'm actually I just finished an article for Hotel Executive that's getting published in February about this subject, about how to respond to negative reviews and the things you should and should not do. And I used a bunch of examples. I wish I'd seen this example before. There's actually another one from Ireland, which was very similar, where they were complaining about Wi-Fi, and the person went off in a similar manner. I think the Irish tend to have a good sense of humor, so I think
Is that the Chartres? I
Yeah.
follow them on Facebook.
Yeah.
I love him.
There's a
I'm sure you
lot
talked
of.
about the Instagram shaming, right?
I didn't in mind, but I stuck to
That
TripAdvisor
happened, what,
reviews.
6 months ago, 8 months ago?
Yeah, I've seen that.
Right,
There's
so-
a couple of those where the influencer where they reached out. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes,
Is that
actually,
Yes.
she requested over Valentine's Day,
Yeah.
and then went back and forth. And I could make the argument if you were a small inn owner, which this appears to likely to be, like the amount of PR you get out of it
Sure.
is.
But that's a risk, right? Yeah, that's a risk.
Absolutely,
when
it's
you
a
do
risk.
Well, yeah.
They didn't know
and
this was going to get picked up like that. They were trying to be funny. If you look through, they tried to be funny before, and it's fallen kind of flat. So I think there's a tone, there's a balance, and it's a very, very tight balance between funny and like something we're going to talk about. And I mean, he starts out by calling the person a liar, a guest a liar. So I think there's a risk involved in that, but. I like it personally. I just think I wouldn't recommend it for a lot of hotels.
As a strategy, yeah.
if you can't execute it that well with that kind of comedy and kind of absurdity tied in and things like that,
it's a little bit like
dangerous.
I think I equate it to like when watching NFL football and the team is like 3 touchdowns behind and they make a touchdown and the guy that makes the touchdown beats his chest and acts like Superman's like, look at the scoreboard, dude. You're behind. I don't think you should be. Same instance with this. If you're constantly getting bad comments and this is your only retort, it's a bad thing because you're not you're basically not providing a value to. If you're really an excellent hotel and you get one of these totally out of place and out of context negative replies, I think this is a fun way of getting back and saying you're right. Wow, and it's fun, but it has to be in the right context. And it's certainly not a persistent strategy. But if your hotel has that voice. And you have that capacity, you better be dang funny because if you don't pull off funny, it ain't going to go over well anyway. So.
Yeah. Well, and the question is, who is the audience for this? Is it just that individual who posted in a public forum, or is it the community who's looking
every
at that?
Potential consumer? Yeah. You really need to think about that when you're responding. We're actually doing our podcast. We were meant to record last week, but we're recording this afternoon is on this subject specifically, where we're going to break down reviews and talk about the do's and don'ts and stuff like that.
I had a client one time who didn't know what to do because somebody wrote a terrible review of his property, and the reality was he didn't spend the night in the hotel. He was so disruptive, they called the police, and he spent the night in jail. And so my client wanted to open the response with, well, had you stayed at our hotel instead of in prison, you might have had a better experience. And I was like, can't do it. Can't do it.
That's not good.
That's going over a bit of extreme in some sense. Yeah.
Just because you
I will say
that is
a tough thing when you've got someone who's got a very negative review, and part of that is because you have had to remove them from the property.
From the property,
right. Whether you did or the authorities did, but we've dealt with a few of those.
Right. Well, I agree. It goes back to: are you trying to even the score, or are you trying to create a positive response? It could be vindictive, like you're talking about with the jail thing, or it could be an attempt at humorous, like it's so out of context for us and it was so wrong. We have to just kind of put it into a lighter frame.
I'm just so grateful that when I was a hotel GM, TripAdvisor didn't exist because I was running a hotel temporarily. I walked into the hotel. Here's a guy. Pair of jeans, no shoes, no shirt, a cigarette lit in one hand, another one in the other one, flailing his arms, yelling at me about how my night auditor figured out how to turn off the heat or the air conditioning to his room the night before, called his mother, and kicked him out of the hotel. And I thought, this guy's insane. My night auditor could never figure out how to do all those things. And so I said to him, you know what, clearly we're not a good fit for you. I think you should leave. I just thought he was nuts. Sure enough, my night auditor did do all those things to him.
Oh, boy.
I said, he said that you shut off his air conditioning. She said, yes, I did.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, wow.
How did you know how to do that? Oh, I know how to do that. And I said, and you called his mother, didn't you? Yes, I did. She looked up his contact information,
hysterical.
called his mother. Thank God there was no TripAdvisor.
Well,
Man.
I think there was no social media back when I was young. That's another story. We are at a 2-hour.
I did check that hotel. It does have 4.5 bubbles on TripAdvisor, so they're generally, I guess, doing a pretty good job. So
They probably do. We're at a 2-hour mark, so I guess I don't want. I mean, we can keep on talking if you'd love to, but I don't want to go over and keep you pressed if you don't want to.
Run.
Yeah, and then next week we're going to dedicate more to the show as well for the conference. We're going to talk more about the topics again about the conference so that people will be a little bit more prepped for the content. I think that's a small thing we do. So
Sign up.
Breakouts. Sign up. It'll be awesome.
It will be. It
is going to be a great conference. And in some of the ad campaigns, I've taken a twist on the campaign strategy side of saying it's not just about the content, which is already pristine. It's also about the networking. People. The joy of the conference is much about connecting physically with people that are in the same space as us, talking and dealing with the same things as us, and having a camaraderie about it, about really sharing useful ways of solving common problems.
And our discipline so needs that.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, it is just like old home week, but you do this every year. I mean, the endearing friends that I have in the show and beyond, and literally because of the conference, the crossing of paths that you have at this conference is, forever. You keep in contact because you create that be able to call somebody and go, hey, are you facing the same problem I got? And boom, you have somebody that you can talk intelligently with about the same issue, and it's really powerful. So I put that in the advertising is why I try to say, network is the better half of this in that sense. The content's always great.
And for anyone concerned that hotel rooms are expensive in New York, not 2 weeks from now.
Freaking January.
It's
Who wants to go to New York in January?
There are some now. Again, it may exclude resort fee. Many properties that are under, say $70 per night as a base rate, which is really kind of astounding. But even if you look on, I was actually just looked up on Hotwire, 3.5-star hotel, New York Times Square, 90% favorable ratings, 4 bubbles on TripAdvisor, 4-night stay, including all taxes, fees, everything, $443.
Nice.
Pretty amazing. That's
Good.
that is a low rate. I'm not sure. I have to do some more research to figure out which property it is. Sorry, hoteliers. And I might. I don't know. We'll have to see. So, anyway, but yeah, there's some pretty crazily low. I think they have a 5-star hotel for like $173, which probably has a $40 a night resort fee or something on it. But
yeah.
Who's killing it right now in the Times Square area is the Pod Hotel. That one is.
Where are you
I'm
staying?
fighting that one with several clients. They're doing they're gangbusters. They're crushing it.
Where are you staying, Lauren?
I'm staying down at one of my clients' hotels, the Concord Hotel over on 54th.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, beautiful little hotel. Just new to market. We just put it in market in the middle of last year. It went from being the British Airways crew hotel to new to market, and we already got it. We had it sold out 31 days after it opened, and it stayed sold out for a record 92 days before we first had our first below. So we rocked it.
Nice.
Where are you staying, Stuart?
And the Marquee with conferences.
Jay.
Wow, what a good conference speaker or a good attendee you are.
I'm staying at the new Embassy Suites, Midtown Times Square area. Brand new hotel.
Nice.
Beautiful property, yes.
I'm currently booked at a Hilton Garden Inn, again using my patented strategy, which is find a decent, very low cost hotel and then go find one stupid revenue manager. And I'm right in the middle of finding one stupid revenue manager. That's all I need.
That's
right?
all you need.
Tell me
Fair
what you
enough.
find, Robert. I'm booked also at the Hilton Garden in Times Square, and I have a reservation at Citizen M. I can't decide.
Oh, Citizen M's great.
Yeah, it is. It's a nice hotel.
Stay at Citizen
Mm-hmm.
M. I mean, you may be paying. You're certainly, and Citizen M has been really having some interesting revenue management strategies, going from $1,500 a night for a 4-night stay down to $700, up to $1,100. They have been bouncing all over.
Robert, just keep an eye on the road, because historically, right now, they usually flinch about 48 hours out, and they'll drop their rates.
Oh yeah, I
dramatically.
know. Yep. Yeah.
True.
So,
The row basically prices to fill, right? So
All right.
Rope.
all right. Jay,
Good to
if
see
you
you
want to
again.
know, you're new to us on a regular basis. If you want to know more about the wonderful world of Ashford.
yes, you have to say it with a hushed tone, don't you?
Yes, yes.
Well, it's more like Remington. It's really Remington. though.
Remington, yes, true.
It helps.
Yes. And being the host with the most for the conference, if people want to know more about you, where can they find
The host with the second most, Lauren.
Okay, host.
The most, yes.
Where is your loyalty, Lauren?
Sorry. What she said.
Oh, what have I done? J Hubs at Remington
Yeah.
Hotels.
That's where you can find me. Or you'll see me in New York in 2 weeks.
Or in New York in 2 weeks. Holly, where can they find your amazing sales program?
Holly at influencer-sales.com.
And talk about loyalty. That used to be Holly at hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com. So
I'm just a stepping stone to success. Is she still
You
there?
can still find me there.
Still find
I'll
her there?
answer to there.
Oh, I
I'll answer to that as well.
Yeah, she just has a higher calling. That's all.
Exactly.
I'm just a jigsaw on her puzzle. Mr. Robert, where can they find you, sir, in Rock Cheetah?
Certainly on social media at Robert K. Cole or rockcheetah.com.
Very
And
nice.
Mr. Stuart Butler, the Wonderful Fuel Travel and its podcast.
Yeah, anywhere you want to go, just type in Fuel Travel and you'll find us. So, and the podcast is fueltravel.com/podcast.
Very cool.
And you, Lauren?
And for this copy of this show and all previous 178 of them, you can go to hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com/live. And in about 2 days, I'll have my amp turned off so the video players will play back into my posts.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, learn about AMP the hard way. Anyways, but yes, for the show next week will be show number 180, which we will dedicate a lot of time to the content relationships of the stuff that's in. We're actually going to take the agenda, go through it, and see what other points. So if you raise any questions, they can be answered at the conference when you attend. So with that in mind, thank you everyone that did attend, Bob, Vic, and everyone else that popped through on some comments and the rest. And we will see everyone next week, Friday, 11:30 Eastern for show 180. Bye, everyone.
Bye.